For the first time in his presidency, Donald Trump broke with Pete Hegseth last night, and it comes as no surprise. Why would you want to associate yourself with a war criminal? But the problem for Donald Trump is you're a war criminal as well. No amount of verbal gymnastics and, oh, I didn't know, or I wouldn't have done that, or I'm unsure, or 2 weeks away, in fact, will get you out of this, Donald. It is not going to happen. But Trump might think that is the case, but clearly he is in panic mode, which is why he was caught deleting a post last night as rumors continue to erupt about him firing Pete Hegseth. We are going to get into it all and the chaos that is happening in this White House, but before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, before we get into these rumors, and of course the post that Trump deleted, I want to start with the reason for the post, and it's what Senator Mark Kelly had to say yesterday about Trump and Hegseth's illegal orders.
And if I was ever given an unlawful order, I would refuse. If you have time, you can certainly go to the judge, advocate generals, the lawyers, and have a discussion about it. If you don't have time, you just say simply, I'm not going to do that. That's against the law.
It puts a lot of burden on the troops to make a decision in real time.
It puts a tremendous amount of burden on officers in the military, but that is their responsibility, and they can figure out, a reasonable person can tell something that is legal and something that is illegal.
So would you refuse these specific orders to strike drug boats if you were still in uniform?
Well, the difference between the initial strike and what is being reported, as a second strike, and those things are different. I think this administration has tied themselves in knots, the explanations that we have received on how this is all legal. And I was saying weeks ago, my concern is with the service members, that we're gonna put these individuals in a really, really tough decision, in a tough place. And they may find out, down the road that they did something that is illegal. It is not fair to them. That's why we need presidents and Secretary of Defense who understand the Constitution, who understand the rule of law, and have more respect for the Constitution and the country and service members than the whims of a president.
All right, Senator Mark Kelly, thank you so much for being here in person.
The compromised and dangerous position that Donald Trump is putting our troops in is incredibly unpatriotic. It is illegal, it is obviously dangerous, but I think we should point out that it is unpatriotic. Donald Trump always talks about how much Democrats hate America, how the left wants to destroy our country, but it is Donald Trump who is consistently attacking the biggest and most beautiful cities in this country and undermining our service members. That is what Donald Trump has done in both of his presidencies. That is how he has built his political career. It is MAGA who is constantly attacking and undermining what is actually great about our country, and Donald Trump's incessant assault on the military is just another example. And these are people who he not only doesn't have respect for, but actively disdains. Donald Trump hates our troops because he hates to see someone who has actually served our country recognized, because he, a person who's done jack shit, wants all of the praise himself. And Donald Trump also wants to pretend like he's a strong man. And so does Pete Hegseth. They are the two most insecure people in the country, which is why, after Donald Trump made a statement that I want to check out, Pete Hegseth, trying to save himself, at least publicly, made an insane post that relates to what Donald Trump deleted.
Number one, I don't know that happened. And Pete said he did not want them. He didn't even know what people were talking about. So we'll look into it. But no, I wouldn't have wanted a second strike. The first strike was very legal. It was fine. And if there were two people around, but Pete said that didn't happen.
So after Trump broke with Hegseth, Pete Hegseth posted, "Franklin targets narco-terrorist, making a spoof in a disgusting way out of a children's book." What a loser Pete Hegseth is. And the fact that that is our Secretary of Defense spending his time shitposting on Twitter, what are we doing anymore? It is just an embarrassment. I know I say this all the time, but they're criminals, they're corrupt, we know it, but they're embarrassing. More than anything, Pete Hegseth is an embarrassing. And the fact that the guy who was probably 6 gin and tonics deep on a Sunday night shitposting is the one who is pretending that he cares about keeping us safe rather than just stroking his own ego and protecting his own insecurities is laughable to me. We know what Pete Hegseth is trying to do, and it's protect himself. But as we saw in that clip, Donald Trump is moving closer and closer to giving Pete the stinky boot. He's trying to separate himself. He's trying to create distance. But last night, he just showed how panicked he is about all of this in the post he had to delete. Trump makes futile effort to delete typo-filled traitors rant. Donald Trump futilely tried to delete a Sunday night Truth Social rant, but his typo-filled fury was captured by various screenshots the Daily Beast reported. "They're sick are laws that affect our nation," Trump posted, but then quickly deleted his message. On Trump's second attempt at posting, he confused effect and affect instead, going with what the Daily Beast described as the less problematic word impact instead. Trump's edited version finally made it to Truth Social, with both ending in the taunt, "Do what has to be done." Trump seemed to be quoting former U.S. Navy Commander Kirk Leopold, who now works as an inspirational speaker as part of a rant against Democrat traitors, the Daily Beast reported. Last week, of course, 6 Democratic lawmakers with military and intelligence backgrounds released a video urging current U.S. service members to refuse any orders they deem unlawful, an action that aligns with U.S. military law. Trump called them the seditious six and posted that the lawmakers, including former Navy captain and astronaut Senator Mark Kelly, had committed seditious behavior punishable by death. His latest tirade came after another of Trump's Truth Social tantrums, in which he used an offensive slur against Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. "There's something wrong with that guy, absolutely sure," Trump told reporters Sunday on Air Force One as part of a larger meltdown. Yet Donald Trump is clearly in panic mode, and not knowing the difference between affect and effect and being the president of the United States at the same time as you get rid of the Department of Education, that's a whole separate story, and I can't even get into that right now. But clearly it is full-blown panic mode at the White House. Donald Trump sees his MAGA coalition fracturing. I think he wants not a win, but some excuse to shift blame that is resting solely on his shoulders right now. Do I think Hegseth would be the first move for him to fire? I'm not sure. I think Kash Patel might be the first domino to fall as he continues to have scandal after scandal, spending tens of millions of our tax dollars flying his maybe, like Mossad girlfriend around on a private jet. Allegedly, hey, I don't want to get sued. Allegedly Mossad girlfriend around on a private jet on our dime. So I think it might be Kash Patel, but Pete Hegseth, man, Donald Trump does not want to be investigated again. Donald Trump does not want to spend the rest of this term in which his MAGA Congress is already ready to wrap it up. Many Republicans threatening to resign. He does not want to spend that being investigated because of Pete Hegseth's war crime. So I think Donald Trump might see that he has his Republicans in Congress moving against him, not just for Pete Hegseth's war crimes, but him literally being a puppet of Putin. Representative Don Bacon threatened to resign after it came out that Donald Trump's his own little goober and Steve Witkoff, his little buddy, I don't even want to grant him the title that he does not deserve, but was feeding information to the Russians on how to negotiate with Trump. Don Bacon, who represents that Nebraska 2nd Congressional District, one of the most important seats to flip in these upcoming midterms, threatened to resign. And the same can be true, of course, of what Pete Hegseth is doing right now. It should be equally infuriating to him. So would Donald Trump rather lose his majority in the House of Representatives and give Democrats unlimited power, not only to investigate Pete Hegseth, but the Epstein files, or would he rather just give him the boot? In my opinion, he's going to give him the boot. And those are the decisions that Donald Trump has to make right now, is fire people within your administration or see Republicans in Congress resign. And oh my God, is that just so funny? Like, it truly just is. It is. And that's why we need to keep the pressure up, as Seth Moulton did right here.
Indeed, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth did order a second follow-up strike on survivors of a boat strike. Do you think that he should resign from his post?
I mean, absolutely. He should have resigned months ago when he shared classified information with his family that could have gotten American pilots killed, something that would have gotten any private under his command thrown into prison. So this is someone who is wholly unqualified to be Secretary of Defense. And now the only debate, if this proves true, if these allegations prove true, now the only debate is just whether or not he's a murderer or a war criminal. That's for the lawyers to decide.
Congressman, you're a Marine Corps veteran. If you were to have received these orders, would you have carried out these strikes?
No, I would have refused. And that is the duty that is incumbent upon officers in the chain of command. And we've heard multiple reports of officers in this chain of command who have told the administration they don't want to carry out these orders, and some of them have been removed. And it's why the message that the lawmaker said in the video, that I've been saying for months now under this administration, is so important, that while responsibility starts at the top, and that's where accountability has to be held as well, it is incumbent upon every officer in the chain of command to remember that the oath that he or she swore was not to Trump, it was to the Constitution and to the laws of the land.
Congressman, I want to talk to you a little bit about the long-term reputational consequences for the U.S. military. If you look at polling over time about Americans' views of various institutions, the media, Congress, the presidency, big businesses, etc., the military is one of the few institutions that remains above water, that Americans still say they trust in to do the right thing. Between these acts off of Venezuela and the deployment of the National Guard into U.S. cities, among other attempts to politicize various parts of the U.S. military, what do you think this does to the reputation of our armed services and to Americans' trust in this institution to do the right thing?
It's incredibly harmful. And as a proud Marine Corps veteran, it really bothers me. If you look at those numbers over time, they've come down dramatically since 2016, since the first Trump administration, because Trump himself has never had any respect for the military. Remember, this is the man who made fun of John McCain, a true hero of the Vietnam War, for getting captured. And he's disparaged our troops on many other occasions. And then he selects in his second term a Secretary of Defense who wrote a book. He literally wrote a book as a Fox News anchor on how to politicize the military. So Trump thinks of the military as a tool for his own benefit, as a political tool to wield against his foes. And he's hired a Secretary of Defense who's totally subservient to that idea and is carrying that out before our eyes. It's incredibly harmful to the long-term reputation of the U.S. military.
Pete Hegseth is a joke. Anyone with sense knows that he has never been qualified for, I don't even think, a low-level role at a nonprofit. He wasn't. He was fired. He couldn't manage 30 people. I don't know why we're letting him manage 3 million. But we got to keep up the pressure because cracks are forming in this administration. I'm going to continue to do that on this show. If you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. If you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Keep on fighting, y'all. Don't let them silence you. And until next time, I'll see you soon.